How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.
What's going on, everybody? Marco here, and it's Tuesday morning, which means fantasy managers everywhere. What you're thinking about most likely is the waivers, because waivers run tomorrow for a lot of our leagues, or maybe even the middle of the day today for some of your leagues. So I wanted to bring you guys some waiver wires before week 5 hits so that you guys can get all the guys you need to get to set yourself up for success for the league. So I want to kick it off with a couple guys that I think are really important. And the first one is a guy who's rostered in quite a few leagues already, but it's Rashod Bateman. He's really important right now. He's rostered, like it says on the bottom of the screen here, in 41% of sleeper leagues. So in ESPN leagues, it might be a little bit lower. But really, with Rashod Bateman, he is a guy who has been dealing with recovery from his core muscle surgery, and he's back. He's officially going to be activated for week 5. People thought he might be back for last week, but it's probably good he wasn't. And now that he's back, he should be take over the lion's share of the targets here. Hollywood Brown is seeing around 6-7 targets a game, and that was honestly not a huge uptick from what he's seen in his career. He's just been a lot more productive with those targets. So the thing with Rashod Bateman is he's probably going to come in. He could see in a similar fashion, he could see those 6 to 7 targets. And I think a lot of the other pass catchers on this team are going to kind of fade away. It kind of will be Rashod Bateman and Hollywood Brown. But the thing with Rashod Bateman is he is an all-around wide receiver. In the offseason, before he got drafted even, I was comping him to Allen Robinson. He profiles like that kind of player. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he could have an Odell Beckham like resurgence in his rookie season. Odell also came back in week 5, but he was dealing with a hamstring injury. I don't think Rashod Bateman's going to see the 130 targets that Odell saw his rookie season, but Bateman should see quite a few targets. I wouldn't be surprised if he's averaging, 6 to 8 targets a game. And so for the rest of the way, he is a guy who you want on your team because Lamar is thirsty for playmakers, and Rashod Bateman is exactly that. All right. Well, the second guy on my waiver list for this week is Dawson Knox. He was on my list last week, but he's only 50% rostered still. He's probably going to be a pretty high priority ad, or a guy who people might be spending a little bit more fab on now that they've kind of made. He's put people on notice. He's put the league on notice, scoring 2 touchdowns last week. That's what you kind of expected in last week's situation. He was playing a team that couldn't really do anything against the tight end and hasn't been able to all year. And Dawson Knox is a guy, he's at 5 targets a game. And realistically, the thing about these targets is that he's seeing them almost solely in the red zone. Last week he had the 2 touchdowns and he had 2 more red zone targets. So when you look at a playmaker tight end or a tight end who could take another step, it's tight ends in their 3rd year. That's Dawson Knox. It's tight ends who are getting really important targets, key targets, red zone targets, and that's Dawson Knox. And tight end who has a good or athletic quarterback, that's Josh Allen. So right now, Josh Allen is looking like he is the real deal. He's continued to grow and improve upon his sophomore season. And really what I see for Josh Allen is that they don't have a running back to help him in the red zone. So it's either Josh Allen or it's probably going to be Dawson Knox. So he's a big target. Go ahead and get Dawson Knox. Right now, I've got him actually probably in over 50% of my leagues. He's going as my tight end 1 in a lot of leagues because I go late at tight end, and a lot of you guys did. And if you went Jonnu Smith, or for some reason, if you went Cole Kmet and Adam Troutman, and you're kind of just scrounging around trying to figure something out, Dawson Knox is an awesome addition at the tight end spot. He's only 50% rostered, so he's available in a lot of places. The next guy is also someone that you need to be looking at, and it's Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz has completely moved Blake Jarwin into his rear view when it comes to competition at the tight end spot for the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys, although they're not passing as much as people were hoping so far, outside of week 1, of course, Dalton Schultz is still seeing targets. He's averaging right around 7 targets a game if you exclude that random 2-target game in week 2. And he's a guy you really want because Dalton Schultz, not only did he get into the end zone, but he's seeing valuable targets and he's catching them. Blake Jarwin is a guy who he scored a touchdown last week, but that was kind of it. That's kind of all he did the whole game, and that's going to be what he is. He's the backup tight end, and so he might get his opportunities, but Dalton Schultz, the guy he's younger than Blake Jarwin. He's probably as athletic, not more athletic, and he's on an offense that is going to probably be one of, if not the best offenses in the league for the rest of the season. Dak Prescott looks incredible. Obviously, CD has been solid. Amari's been solid. Zeke's been an absolute beast, and this defense has stepped up quite nicely. So I like Dalton Schultz as another tight end option for you. All right, we've got a couple more we want to cover before we send you off to the waiver wire. But I'm going to kick it off here with a Bear running back. Obviously, David Montgomery went down to injury last week near the end of the game. It looks like it was a hyperextended knee. Luckily, he probably avoided a torn ACL or any issues with the MCL. But regardless, he's probably going to miss at least 1 week, if not more. And that means that Damien Williams is in line for a lot of work. And he's only rostered in 12% of leagues. He's going to be a top priority add. So if you are someone who is desperate at running back, go ahead. And I'm not willing to spend probably more than 28% of my fab on Damien Williams if you're desperate at running back, because the reality is David Montgomery is probably going to be coming back. It just might be 3-4 weeks at the absolute most. So Damien Williams is still a really nice add. He's going to slot in as a David Montgomery light because he can do a lot of the things David Montgomery can, just not quite as well. The offense and the offensive line are a little bit of an issue. But Damien Williams, in the small amount of action we've seen him in, has looked really nice. So go ahead and add Damien Williams. Like I said, don't break the bank for this guy if you're doing fab. Right now, he's 25% of my fab, or 28% of my fab maximum. He could slot in nicely for the next couple of weeks. All right, I got two more and then a few little notes for you guys. So my second to last one is a guy who has been lighting the world on fire. He's had a little bit of an easy schedule, but coming into week 5, that kind of continues here. It's Sam Darnold. He's only rostered in 43% of leagues. And let me pull up some of my notes here because Sam Darnold is playing the Philadelphia Eagles in week 5, which is a defense that's improved, but it's not one you need to worry about. And after that, he plays the Minnesota Vikings, the New York Giants, the Atlanta Falcons. So he's someone that you can add on your waivers that won't be a 1 week fill-in. Like if you're looking at a quarterback, you're like, what am I going to do? I'm weak at quarterback right now. I've got Ryan Tannehill, who's been a little bit of a mess. What can I do? Sam Darnold is probably your answer right now. He's also weirdly leading the league in rushing touchdowns. He's got 5 rushing touchdowns. And if you look at Alvin Kamara, I don't think he has any. So Sam Darnold is probably the best dual threat quarterback in the league right now. But add him, he's going to be worth it. If you're looking at fab, I don't really put a percentage on quarterbacks because we're in probably a lot of different leagues, super flex, non-super flex, 4-point touchdown, 6-point touchdown. But all I'll say is this: don't break the bank for Sam Darnold. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are available probably that could do well. And Sam Darnold for at least the next 4 or 5 weeks should be really good. But he's not going to stay as efficient as he's been. He's not going to keep getting these rushing touchdowns, most likely. So at least I'm saying right now, go out, get him if you can. Don't break the bank in fab and add a quarterback that for the next 4 or 5 weeks could win you some weeks. All right. We're going to wrap it up with a guy who, honestly, if you were talking fab, I am not putting almost any fab on Samaje Perine. I think Joe Mixon will probably be back earlier than we're thinking, 2 weeks probably. But Samaje Perine, he's 4% rostered right now, and he's going to see the work. The Bengals, honestly, the best part of their offense is their passing game. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins is making a return, it looks like. So in week 5, I think Samaje Perine could be a nice add for teams that are desperate at running back. And he's basically just going to be getting the work probably. I think Chris Evans will move in a little bit on some of his workload. And let me actually pull up where Chris Evans' rostership is because I think he's a guy that we got to make sure we're mentioning. Evans right now is sitting at a rostership of around 63%. And, that's probably, and that's on Sleeper. So that's probably some leagues who already ran waivers. But I think Evans has a little bit more upside than Perine, but Perine's going to see the early down work at least. So he's going to be the guy you want over Chris Evans. I want to wrap up with this though. There's two things I want you guys to know when it comes to waivers. The first one is Dallas Cowboys defense is a nice streaming defense this week. And they're actually not a bad defense for a little while, right? They've got the New York Giants in week 5. They've got the New England Patriots and Mac Jones in week 6. They've got a bye in 7. Then they've got Minnesota, who has been tough this year, but who knows what they keep doing. Then Denver and Atlanta through week 10. And the Dallas Cowboys defense has stepped up. Trayvon Diggs took the big step people were hoping he would take in year 1. He's taking it in year 2, which is great. Micah Parsons has been unreal. They've been moving him around as an edge rusher a little bit to make up for the loss of DeMarcus Lawrence, and it's actually worked. So the Dallas Cowboys defense is a streaming defense. I know I'm trying to pick them up in a couple leagues, and I think you should as well. And then finally, the last thing I'll say is pay attention to waivers. Pay attention not only after they run, pay attention after they run, because here's the thing. People drop stupid players that they shouldn't be dropping. Will Fuller's injured. I bet you Will Fuller gets dropped in quite a few leagues this week. If you are a team that's 3-1 and looking really good, or if you're a team that's 4-0, go ahead Will Fuller. Because I think Will Fuller's going to come back in a couple weeks. He's obviously dealing with the broken finger, but he's a guy who can make an impact. Maybe someone's dropped someone like Jeff Wilson, and because they don't have an IR spot, and so they've dropped Jeff Wilson. Throw Jeff Wilson in your line or on your roster at the end of your bench. He's a guy who, when he comes back, is probably going to take a good amount of work. He's probably going to make Trey Sermon irrelevant. So really, just pay attention to your waivers. People are dropping players they shouldn't. And if you're looking at a defense, don't forget the Dallas Cowboys. All right, guys. Well, that is the waivers for week 5. Thanks for hanging out with me in my basement today. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.
How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.